The first thing we're going to go through is what exactly is content marketing. So, content marketing, it's also called inbound marketing, is a digital marketing strategy that is centered around creating, publishing, and promoting relevant content. And this content can be any number of things from blog posts to photos, ebooks, podcasts, videos, webinars, infographics. There's many, even more than that, types of content that you can create. So, content marketing is more than just creating a blog for your business, though. It's to be successful, you need to combine creating this content with some SEO, social media, email, analytics to really form a complete marketing strategy. So, you have to consider SEO when you're creating the content to ensure that it'll be found by consumers. Social media, email marketing are to be used to promote that content. So once you have it, you put it on your website, you need a way for people to find it. The best way by far is a combination of social media and email. And then you're going to use analytics to look over all your results to see how you can improve things going forward. So what's worked, what hasn't, and using that to create better, more relevant content for your consumers. Before we get into the before we get more in depth, let's say, into content marketing, I thought I'd just kind of focus a little bit on the consumer buying cycle. There's 3, 4, 5 step variations of this. I go with 4 because I find it the easiest. The 4 general stages of anyone buying anything is awareness, research, evaluation, and finally the purchase. And they call it a funnel. And you can see it shaped like that because as you go through each step, you lose more and more people. So in the first step, you're going to have most people that are aware of a need. Some of them are going to ignore it. Others are going to go into the research. From there, once they've researched alternative, they're going to say, okay, well, maybe this isn't for me. And then you're going to get a few more that get to the evaluation stage where they're looking at the various products or services, and then down to the purchase, which again, there's going to be the fewest of those. So you lose people at each stage, which is why it's kind of shaped in that way. So as I just kind of quickly mentioned, we'll go into each step in more depth. So the first stage, awareness, is where consumers become aware of a need. So they're not yet aware at this point of any solutions to it. They just know that they have a need. You're out walking around and you're hungry. Okay, you're aware that you're hungry, but you don't yet know where you're going to go for food. And then you start going through the research stage. So, this could be you on your phone checking all the local restaurants. Once you have enough information so you can see, you've kind of seen the menus, you see what they offer, you start to evaluate your choices, which is the third stage. And you evaluate these options based on perceived value. So that could be how good you think the food looks versus how much it's going to cost you versus how long it's going to take you to get there. All these things. So value is not necessarily all monetary. It can also be time, effort. So you take all of that, and then once you evaluated all those options, the final stage is you make the purchase. So you go and eat at the restaurant. And usually the solution with the highest perceived value by the consumer will win. Well, almost always. So why did we just talk about that? And why is it relevant to content marketing? Content marketing is really, it grew out of a change in the way that consumers do business. So traditionally, almost all 4 of those stages, other than the initial need recognition, they all took place in a retail store. So before the internet, if you had a need, how would you solve it? You'd either ask people you knew, or you'd go down to some stores to figure out different solutions to filling that need that you had. You might talk to some salespeople, you might look, through the shelves and see if there's anything. Again, ask friends and family, get their sort of recommendations. But now with the rise of the internet, that's all changed. Rather than going straight to retail stores, more and more consumers are now searching on the internet first to get some ideas of what they should be buying. 81% now of consumers research products online before making a purchase, and half of consumers read at least 3 pieces of content before talking to a sales rep. So uh, today, many consumers are now walking into a store not to get information, but to make their final purchase, or at least to look at the things they've already narrowed down. So they may have already, by the time they come into a store, they've probably already looked at 3 or 4 of yours and your competitors' websites, and they've got a general idea of what they want to purchase. And now they just want to go in, look at it, feel it, figure out which one's for them. So consumers that walk into your store now are much further along in the buying process than they used to be. This poses a big problem for traditional advertising, which is typically designed to reach people in the 3rd and 4th stages of the buying process. So people that are actively looking for ways of solving the problem. So they've done some research and they're looking for very specific products, or they're even just looking to make a purchase. And that's where advertisements traditionally have really shined, is, sales coming up, or just advertising a specific product or service and the benefits of that product or service. The problem with this approach is that people in the early stages of the buying cycle aren't yet ready to take action. They're simply looking for information. They have no idea what they want. So seeing an ad for a sale for something that they don't really know anything about is not as helpful as, some information explaining how they can solve this need that they have. So it's now essential to get in front of people in those first 2 stages, rather than focusing on the 3rd and 4th, and kind of assuming that they're going to come into the store. Because by the time, if you're not getting into those people's minds in those first 2 stages, by the time they've reached the 3rd stage where they're looking to buy something, you may have already be out of the running. They may already have their mindset on certain features and stuff that your competitors tout that you're either don't have, or that, isn't prevalent in your website, or that maybe your salespeople don't talk about. So it puts you at a big disadvantage. You're always kind of backpedaling a little bit and trying to say, no, everything you've read is wrong, or, well, we think of it a different way, or, you're always on the back foot. Whereas if you get to them in those first 2 stages, you can really put yourself in the lead when it comes to making that sale. And this is really where content marketing comes in. So it catches consumers as they're researching. It's designed to draw your consumers to your website with valuable content explaining exactly how they can solve the need that they've just come across. This content then demonstrates how your products and services can help them solve their problem and puts them into your mind of thinking. So again, it's really emphasizing the ways that your products and services can help get fill their need better than your competitors can. So along with this, brand awareness, influencing consumer buying decisions, content marketing also has many other kind of knock-on benefits. And a few of these would be improved SEO. So this is a big one. SEO, for those that don't know, is just simply search engine optimization. So it's showing your website higher in search engine results. The higher you show in search engine results, the more people can see your website, the more traffic you get on your website, and the more sales you ultimately get from your website. So having more content on your website, so more pages, blogs, videos, whatever, more content, gives search engines more content to crawl, which also allows you to rank for a wider variety of keywords. So one page on your website can really only effectively rank for maybe 1, 2, up maybe 3 keywords. So if you have a website right now with 5 pages, at the absolute most, you can effectively show for between 10 and 15 keywords. If you then add a blog or some content to the website where you've got another 10 pages, you've now tripled the amount of keywords that you can show for. So your website can show up for a wider variety of consumer searches. And the more content you have and the more keywords you can show up for, then the more traffic your website's going to generate. The more traffic your website generates, the more traffic you will get, because search engines see a website's traffic and says, okay, If they're trying to figure out who to rank and one website's got 100 people that go on it a month and the other has 10,000 that go on it a month, it's going to show the one that's got 10,000 a month, because consumers have already voted basically that this website is more relevant because they're going on it and they're not going on the other one. So search engines take this into account and they'll rank websites with higher traffic higher in their results pages. And the third point for SEO is just simply that consumers love to share content. So if someone reads a piece of content, watches a video, looks at an infographic on your website, and they love it, they're going to share it with their friends. The more times they share it, the more links you have on other websites to your website. These are, again, indicators that this is high quality content because it's getting shared. So the more of those you have, the higher your rank will be for other searches. And that's kind of an overall thing. So these will help the SEO of those individual articles that are getting linked to, but it'll also help the SEO of your website overall. So you'll show better in those searches, but you'll also show better in other searches. Lead generation. So content marketing is great for generating qualified leads. So qualified just meaning that you know what they're looking for ahead of time. They're high quality and they're looking for something specific. So a common practice in content marketing is to actually gate, they call it, your most valuable content behind a form. So what this means is you have a few blogs that share some basic tips and tricks, and you maybe have a few videos that explain a few things about a particular subject. You then take your top 5, top 10 best tips, put them in one article, and then your consumers will then have to give you their name and email address to access that piece of content, that article, where the other ones have been free. You know, they can just go on your website and view them. So by the time they reach that, they've already read a few pieces of content. They're interested. Now, when they give you their name and email address, they're really showing you that they're interested in getting solutions to this problem, because you know they're willing to give you something to get information. So leads from content marketing, as I mentioned, are very qualified. This is because you know exactly what they're interested in because of the piece of content that they downloaded. It could also be a free trial or something else. It doesn't necessarily have to be a piece of content. But when they give you their information, they've given it to you for a very specific reason, which you can now know, okay, this is what they're interested in. This is what I'm going to follow up with. It makes your follow-up process a lot easier as well. So not only can you generate leads, but you can generate very qualified leads with content marketing. Other benefits include increased brand authority and increased brand loyalty. This is just a result of people coming back. So if you write good content, consumers will keep coming back, seeking answers for related questions or other questions in your industry. As a result, they begin to see your brand as an authority. So people like doing business with experts, you know, people that know what they're talking about, and having a good amount of content on a wide variety of subjects related to your industry helps that immensely. And people will come back over time for that. And the final benefit is maybe the best one, which is overall lower marketing costs and better ROI, which is return on investment. So studies have shown that content marketing costs 62% less than traditional marketing methods. Per dollar spent, you'll also generate about 3 times as many leads as traditional advertising, you know, billboards, radio, newspapers, even stuff like Google Ads potentially. Although with those, it really depends on the effectiveness of both strategies, right? So some people might generate 10 times as many leads, sometimes might generate 1.5 times. But overall, you're going to be spending less, getting the same results, or spending the same and getting better results than you are now. One sort of caveat to that is that content marketing takes time. So if you were to look at it, if you're looking to get people on your website tomorrow and you're looking to generate leads tomorrow, content marketing is not the best solution. If you're looking to get consistent leads and consistent traffic over the next 3 or 4 years, that's where content marketing really shines. So it takes some time for you to produce content. It also takes time to promote that content. And it also takes time for search engines to find and index your content and show it in their results pages. So for the first couple months at least, you're probably not going to see too much of a return on investment from your promotion. Let's say you're boosting on social media, um, getting this emails out there with all your new content. You'll get some eyes on it, and you might get some results, but they probably won't be enough to justify the cost. And with content marketing, it's mostly a time cost, because it just takes, again, it takes time to produce and to promote this content, where you're not spending as much on advertising dollars, let's say. But if you were to take that same piece of content and look at it 6 months, 1 year down the road, it's still going to be producing leads and it's still going to be getting traffic to your website. Whereas if you stop spending money on ads, you stop getting results right then. So with content marketing, it's less initially, but more over the long term. And there's a few reasons for this. So one, as I was sort of alluding to there, the SEO benefits of content marketing, they compound over time. So not only so search engines not only take a long time to index it, but it also takes time for them, once they've indexed it and put it on their results pages, it takes them time to even trust that that's a good piece of content. So they will slowly increase its SEO over time. And the article might start on page 3, 4, 5 of search of their results. But over time, as they're more and more confident in that, and as the article gets more shares, more views, and your overall website traffic increases, it will start to show higher and higher and higher in the results pages. And this compounds over time. As I said, traffic, links, social shares. As these things increase, so does your SEO, which leads to more traffic and even more SEO. And then also, if you write the content well and you write it so that it's relevant for the next 5 years, the information is as good today as it will be in a couple of years. This allows you to build a library of solutions that are equally as relevant, and then you don't have to spend any more time on it. So yes, it's going to take you a few hours to write a good blog, but that blog will then be relevant tomorrow, next month, next year, even maybe 5 years down the road. Whereas again, an ad, if you spend the same amount of time on it, then you got to spend money on it. Once you stop spending money, it's done. So the more content you have, again, the better your results are going to be. So these sort of things compound. And then the brand loyalty benefits also compound over time. So if they've read one article, they might be a little more apt to do business with you or to continue doing business with you. If they've read 10, 15 articles over the course of a year, now they're going to really want to do business with you because they really understand where you're coming from, and really look at you as an expert at what you do. So all these sort of things, as you get more content and more time, will improve, and it kind of snowballs. So what kind of content should you actually create? We'll go over a few of the most common, and by far the most common are blog posts. So blog posts are just simple text with some video or maybe some images, one or the other, or both. Usually between 500, 1,500 words long. And you use those images, videos to break up the post a little bit while also reinforcing key points. Blog posts can be used for brand awareness. So again, let's say if you're looking at the 4 stages of the buying cycle, getting people in those first and second stages, those are your sort of brand awareness posts. Those are ones that are answering the most basic possible questions. Probably your top 10 questions that you get all the time from people that don't know what you do. Those would be your brand awareness posts. You'd have one post for each, answering each of those questions. Then you have lead generating posts, which are posts that are geared more toward people in the buying mood. So, something where you're comparing 2 different brands, and which is better, our brand or their brand. Someone that's interested in reading that already has an idea of what they're looking for. They're now kind of shopping, they're shopping between you and your competitors. That sort of article will get them notice. It'll make them take a look and say, okay, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to know. Do I buy this brand or this brand? So they're in the mood to buy and they just want to know which. That would be a great topic for a lead generation post. And you want to link them together. So you can think of blogs or your content in general in the same way that you think of those buying cycle stages. So you're going to have posts aimed at people in the first stage, the second stage, the third stage, and the fourth stage. And your content will link the same way. So any content that's looking for people researching will then link to people searching for alternatives and getting some idea of what they want to buy, which will then link to posts aimed at people looking to buy today. So as people kind of go through those stages and get that information, you're leading them down the sales path naturally. And again, that can be blog posts, or it can be a combination of blog posts with other forms, that we'll talk about here, video and whatnot. So you can also link these posts to then those lead generation tools like ebooks, free trials. That can be your close for people not yet ready to buy. So other types of content include infographics. So these are images that are used to present information in an easy to digest format. I'll just click on a link here. Again, you'll have all these links are clickable in the PDF that you'll get. And here's just a quick example of an infographic. So it's one graphic with some text, with some images, and the images are designed to convey information. So 75% of consumers never look past the first page of search results. This is why SEO is important. And then you have that showing that particular stat. 91% of internet users use search engines, again, showing you 91% visually. So these are the sort of things that infographics generally do. Just easy ways of digesting more complex information. These are also very shareable. So a lot of people use these on social media. Maybe not as much as they used to, because they can be, let's say, more complicated and harder to set up than, say, a video would be. Videos are another very engaging form of content that people love to share. And as people have gotten more comfortable with video, and video sort of editing tools have become easier to use, more and more people, I would say, are going to video rather than infographics, but both have their place for sure. Videos, though, on social media, probably your best form of content that you can create. They're 40 times more likely to be shared than other forms of content. So video is 40 times more likely than photos, text, any other kind of content you can think of that's normally shared on social media. And integrating video into your sales pages can also help increase conversions and sales for those people that don't want to read, or are just looking for something to quickly explain it in 2 minutes. Videos are great for that. And they can really help sort of explain more complicated ideas than long forms of text that people probably aren't going to read. Podcasts are something that more and more businesses are getting into. Podcasts aren't new by any means. They've been around for at least 10 years now, I believe. But they're relatively new in the small business sort of community. But podcasts do have a lot of advantages over traditional blogs, videos, other forms of content. One, they're more personal. So maybe not with respect to video, but at least with respect to blogs and images. A podcast really lets you get across your personality. It's essentially a conversation between you and your audience, a one-way conversation. It allows you to really put your personality out there, and gets people to like you, like your business a lot more, because they can see that sort of human side of the business. From a more practical standpoint, podcasts are also automatically downloaded to your subscribers, so they don't have to go looking for your content. It gets put on their device automatically. So if you have a weekly blog, and you publish a piece of content once a week onto your website, it's up to the consumer to go and find that. Whereas if you put out a podcast every week, it's going to automatically go to their device. They'll see it and they'll play it if they like the podcast. And podcasts can also be consumed while driving, walking, working out, where more traditional forms of media require a lot more engagement. So, you can't really read a blog article on your tablet while you're going for a run, but you can do that with a podcast or driving or, anything like that. So they're a lot more easily consumed in a lot more ways. So how are you going to set up your content marketing strategy for success? So now we have a general idea of what kind of content is available, what we want to do, what the purpose of this is. Now, how do we make sure it's successful? And definitely the most important, maybe, if you get one thing out of this, the only thing to get out of this is content quality and originality. So not copying and pasting content from your manufacturers or other people in the industry, but coming up with original, engaging content, really focus on quality. If you have an article, if you're thinking, okay, all my articles should be 1,000 words because that's what everyone's telling me, and you just end up kind of rambling for the last 200 or 300 words, it really affects the quality of the article and people aren't going to stick around. You'd be much better off to edit it down to the 700 or 800 words and really making it pop, focusing on the quality rather than the quantity. And that also goes for, how many pieces of content that you're going to create. If you can create 1 to 2 really high quality pieces a week, you're going to be a lot better off than 4 to 5 a week that are of less quality. Remember that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of articles written already, or pieces of content written, produced, video, whatever, about your industry and about what you want to talk about. So if yours isn't good, there's thousands of others that are, and people will just go to those ones rather than continue reading yours. So focus on what they would find interesting, hook them in, and what are they looking to learn, and make sure that you cover that in your article. So answering their questions in depth, show off a little bit of your personality. You don't have to be completely business-like. You can make it fun, but really make sure that you get the core of what they're looking for. So every piece of content, I don't know if I've been clear about that yet, but every piece of content that you create should be designed to answer a very specific question that your consumers will have. And you want to make sure that you answer that in as much depth as you can, without being too wordy or without the video being too long or the podcast or whatever the case may be. Also keep in mind that your readers are much less knowledgeable about the subject that you're talking about than you are. So try not to use too many industry specific terms. If you do, explain them in depth. Don't leave anyone behind, basically, at least in those first few articles. So again, if you think about the stages of the consumer buying cycle, in the articles where you're talking to the people that are in the first and second stage, they likely know next to nothing about your industry or the terms and that sort of thing. So keep them very basic, where by the time you get to the ones where you're trying to sell them, you can pretty much be assured that they have some working knowledge now of what you're talking about, and you can be a little bit more advanced in those. So the next thing you're going to have to do is to choose how often you're going to post new content. Overall, the more content you publish, the better your results are going to be. Companies that publish 11 or more posts a month generally get about twice the traffic to those that publish 2 to 5 per month. But publishing, let's say 12 pieces every month, 3 to 4 pieces per week, that's a big time commitment. To write, promote, all that, publish a blog post. I say blog post there, but video, they're all pretty much similar. It's going to take you 3 to 4 hours likely to do a really good job on one piece of content, regardless of the piece of content. So, 3 to 4 pieces a week leaves you 9 to 16 hours a week working on content, which is likely not something that you likely don't have that amount of time in a week, I would imagine. Or if you do, you don't want to be spending it that much of it on content, which is fine. So how often should you publish new content? We always recommend at least 1 to 2 a month, preferably one every week, some piece of content. 3 to 4 hours a week, committing to one piece of content a week is a relatively low investment that over the course of 6 months to a year will really, really, really start to pay off. Another thing that you're going to want to do is publish all of the content that you produce to your website, whether it's a video, whether it's a blog, infographic, uh, podcast, maybe not as much, but these should be put on your website or you don't get the full benefit of having them. So there are, third-party kind of blogging sites. There's also Medium, LinkedIn articles that you can publish to. When you publish to these things and not to your own website, you lose out on SEO because your website is now not able to show for those keywords that are in that article. Whereas if they're on their website, on your website rather, they will. You also don't get the traffic benefit, the SEO benefit of all that extra traffic to your website. So we always, always, always recommend put it on your website first. If you do want to use something like Medium or LinkedIn articles or publish it to a third-party website as well, publish it to your own site first. Give it a few weeks for search engines to properly find it and index it, and then publish it to those other sites so that yours is in search engines the original, and these other sites have a copy of your original piece. It's an SEO thing that helps move everything to be your article being the most important, and the others, if people find it on Medium or something, great. But you want your website to be the focus. And do some research. So even if you're an expert in your field, do a little bit of research. I mean, you are an expert in your field, but even if you're 100% comfortable in what you're talking about and don't think you need to research, still do some research, because you might find things that people are searching for that you're not necessarily aware of. So what we're researching here is what people are searching for related to your products and services. So you can just do a simple Google search for your industry, common problems people are having, common questions people have, from your own mind. You can obviously come up with a list, but you'll be surprised how many questions you're not getting or that you don't get often enough that are actually fairly common. And a great website for finding these sorts of things is one called Answer the Public. I have a link to it there in the second paragraph. You just go on there, simply type in any phrase that you want, and it will give you the most common consumer questions based around that phrase. And you can use this then to come up with a great amount of content ideas. Once you have those ideas, it's time to start choosing which ones you're going to want to write about. So picking the right topics is key. You're going to want to pick ones that are common, but also that are valuable to you. So as an example here, let's say you're the owner of a Toyota dealership. Some common questions might be, what are the most fuel efficient SUVs out there? And why have your oil changed at a dealership versus just going to a garage, somewhere else? Once you have those questions, you then take the ones that are most valuable to you and you build topics that answer those questions. So you're going to have one that demonstrates the fuel efficiency of the Toyota Highlander hybrid versus others. So you're not just writing a social media post saying we have the most fuel efficient SUVs, because that's not really a good answer and not really what the consumer is looking for. They're looking for some numbers, some sort of proof, something in depth on fuel efficiency of specific SUVs. And in the second example, it could be explaining the differences in service level between a dealership and their local garage. So, well, could be anything. I'm not an expert in that, but you could basically pick your top 5 reasons why, and go into each, explaining in depth each reason to give them an idea of, why spend more to go to a dealership, basically. You're also going to want to pick the right format for your content. So as we've seen, there's quite a few formats to choose from for a particular piece. The format that you choose should be somewhat based on the goal you have for that content. So is it to, generate brand awareness or generate leads? Those are kind of your two main ones. But it should also be based on the information that you want to convey. So if it's something that's very visual, you don't want to write a blog post. You're going to want to do images, videos, something that shows that, that you can visually show. Or if it's, something that's hard to explain in words, you would switch to doing a video, doing some images and infographics, something in that respect. Whereas if it's an easy sort of just a basic answer, that you can write in 300-400 words, your options are a little more open. Blog posts will probably be easier if you're not as comfortable on video, but you have more options to choose from there. Then it would probably come down to, again, the goal. So if your goal is lead generation, videos aren't as good for that because there's no links in them to get people to take the next step. Or a blog post, you can include a link to download a piece of content, to contact you, something like that. Whereas the video is more shareable and is probably going to do better for brand awareness. And as I said there, so if your goal is to increase your exposure, videos, infographics, content like that is going to be your best content or your best format. If you're looking to generate leads, blogs, gated content, those sort of things are going to be your best bet. So another thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have the right title for your articles or your pieces of content. So you could have the absolute best piece of content that's well researched. You have all these facts backing up your points. No one ever reads it because the title sucks and they don't think it's very valuable to them. So you need to think about the title as being the thing that sells people on reading the rest of the article. So using our previous examples, you would have why the Toyota Highlander Hybrid is the most fuel efficient SUV in the world. So a very strong statement for someone looking for fuel efficiency in an SUV. Okay, well, let's see why. It's a good reason to click on that article. Even if they, think you're full of it, they're still going to read on, likely to see your point of view on that. Another example would be 10 reasons why. So those numbered lists are very powerful for people as well. So 10 reasons why you get your oil changed by the professionals at Toyota, rather than just why should you get your oil changed here? One's a lot more compelling than the other. And there's a good article that I've linked to there that gives you some good templates that can get you started. And you can even basically put in the subject and they'll give you some suggestions based on that subject. Make your content easy to read. So for text content, avoid large blocks of text, split it up with titles. You don't want 8 paragraphs in a row without any breaks. No one's going to read that. People skim, they don't read full articles anymore. So you're going to want to have titles within or subtitles within that explain what the next 2 or 3 paragraphs are about, so people can easily skim and say, yeah, okay, that's the point I wanted to see. So in that, jumping back to the 10 reasons why, every reason should have its own heading. And then as people go through, they'd say, okay, yeah, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one. Oh, this isn't something I've seen before. I'll read this section. Okay, and then they go and then they move on to the next one. So people will never read all 10. They might only read 3 or 4, but you want to make it as easy to find those 3 or 4 as possible. Use bulleted, numbered lists when possible, and keep your sentences short. Most sentences should be no more than 20 words long. Too many run-on sentences, too big paragraphs where you have 6, 7 sentences in a paragraph makes it very hard to read. So making your content as easy to read as possible is going to help keep people engaged. You're also going to want to include images in your blog post whenever possible. So people are very visual learners, and images help to reinforce those key points and put eyes on that. So you can have a little caption under your image that reinforces maybe you have 3 images and you pick your top 3 points and you have an image for each one of those points with a little caption. Those 3 points will then stick in people's minds a lot more than they would otherwise. They also help to break up long stretches of content. It makes it more readable. And search engines like when you include images, and they'll boost the SEO of posts that have images in them. You're also going to want to include text in your image and video posts. So you've just come up with this, 30-second, minute-long video or this really great infographic. As you put them on the website, the content itself is still good. People will still view it, but the SEO of it will struggle because computers can't understand images and video as well as they can text. So in order to combat that, you need to add some sort of text so that search engines can better understand what that video or what that infographic is about. So even 200-300 words, even just, you can take your script from the video and just copy and paste it underneath the video. Or just do a 200-word intro to the video explaining the reasoning behind it and the questions that people have, that led you to make the video, something like that. Same thing with infographics or other images. You just need something in there so that search engines can really understand what it is you're talking about in that video. Because otherwise, all that search engines see is the title of the video and what the file name of the video is, which is not a lot to go off of. So the SEO of that's always going to be very poor. And you're also going to want to have a follow-up plan for leads once you get them. So this is not just with content marketing, actually, but with marketing in general. I find a lot of marketing strategies end when the lead is generated, where they should end when the sale happens. So not only should you have a plan for getting these leads with all this content, but once you have those leads, you should get a plan for following up with those leads effectively. So as we mentioned earlier, great content will get you very good qualified leads. Take advantage of that by having specific follow-up plans for specific pieces of content. So you know that if they download this piece of content or they sign up for this free trial or whatever the case may be, that they're interested in a very specific product or service. So have a follow-up plan for that, where you're sharing testimonials from people that have bought those services or products, related posts from your blog that talk about those, or from third-party contacts, whether it's your manufacturer or people in other, you don't want to obviously be sharing competitors' info, but other people that share the same point of view, other bloggers or something like that, because if they're hearing the same thing from you and other people, it's a lot more powerful than just hearing it from you. So having a good solid follow-up plan where you maybe have 3, 4, 5 follow-up emails generated, or when you're going to call them the next day and then you're going to call them a week later, have some sort of plan in there. But it's crucial, actually, and this is sort of interesting with content marketing, is sometimes the leads you're generating are not people that are looking to buy, they're just people that are looking for information. So it's very important to understand, if they sign up for a free trial of something, they're obviously looking to buy something. But if they download an ebook, they might just be looking for the information in that ebook, at which case your follow-up shouldn't be to sell them right away. It should be to inform them and then sell them later. So, instead of trying to close right away, send them content for the next couple of weeks, a few emails, 3, 4 emails, giving them more information, warming them up a little bit more, getting them farther down the sales cycle. And then once they're there, you hit them with an offer, a sale, come in and see us in the store, whatever the case may be. Close them once they're ready to be closed and not before. One thing you can do, something that'll save you a ton of time and also give you some extra insights, like are they actually opening your emails or not, is you can use email marketing tools like MailChimp, Constant Contact, ActiveCampaign, that will send these emails automatically. So once they download that piece of content. They're automatically added to your MailChimp account in a very specific list. People in that list then get automated emails, every few days, every few weeks, whatever the case may be, to follow up, that you don't have to do it manually. That's a little bit outside of the scope of what we're talking about today, but it's out there. And if you want more information, you can always feel free to email me and I can explain it a little more in detail. The other thing you're going to want to do for a successful content marketing strategy is check your results. So it's well and good, you're creating good content, it's getting some shares, you're gaining some momentum, but are you doing as well as you can, or are you missing out potentially? So this is where analytics comes in. Google Analytics lets you look at data with respect to how many people are viewing certain articles, how long are they staying on to read, are they reading multiple articles, are they just reading one and leaving, what formats are people, are you getting more traffic on video posts or just on text posts, how many of these readers are actually turning into leads, is that good, is that bad? This sort of information can really lead you down a path of understanding what's working and what's not, so that you can improve what's not and do more of what is working. So you can retool old posts in a new format, or improve the text, something like that, to make it perform better, and take your best content and use it as a template for your content in the future. This will really help accelerate your growth in content marketing. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is promoting your content, which is the hardest thing in content marketing by far, is building an audience, at first at least. So if you've done your job well, the SEO of your content will be good, and it will start showing up in search engine results pages on its own. But small business websites, for reasons I've already mentioned, traffic, links, the multinational companies are always going to have more traffic, always have more links to them than you will. So it's very hard for a small business website to show on the first page of search engine results. So to get your content noticed by your target market, you're usually going to have to do some promotion. Well, you're always going to have to do some promotion, really. Most successful bloggers and content marketers recommend that you spend up to 4 times more time promoting your content as you do writing it. So if it takes you 3 or 4 hours to write the content, you're going to spend 12 to 16 hours promoting that content. This is definitely not possible for small businesses, I would say. That's definitely something a full-time blogger would have time to do, but as a small business owner, you don't have time to do that. But that does demonstrate the importance that promotion does play in content marketing. So my recommendation is always to promote as much as possible. Again, if it takes you 3-4 hours to write the piece of content, you don't want to just do one social media post and leave it alone. Really take the time, you've invested all that time in writing that article, take the time to properly promote it. And the ways you can do that are sharing it on social media. Also, if you find some relevant social media groups that have questions that this article answers, pop that in there. Online forums, put it out in your monthly e-blast, give it to influencers in your industry to share with their followers, link past posts to this current post to get people that are already, your past posts are going to have good SEO already and have some people on them. Take advantage of that with your new articles by sending people from those past posts to those new posts. There's any number of ways that you can go about promoting your content. These are a few of the most effective, but the biggest thing is to keep doing it, keep promoting it. Don't just share it once on social media, also email it, go back in a couple of months and share it again on social media for the people that didn't see it the first time. Maybe run an ad for $5 or $10 on social media, promoting it to a wider audience in your area. There's a ton of things you can do that don't cost a lot other than some time, that will really help get your content out there to many, many, many more people. So the key takeaways before we get to the Q&A, If you have any questions, now's the time to put them in there. I have one so far, but we'll take a few minutes to answer any more that come in. So yeah, if you have any, now's the time. While we do that, I'll just go over some key takeaways for today. The first is that the consumer sales cycle is changing, rapidly changing, I would even say. So small businesses need to change to adapt to that. You can't just rely on people coming into your store um, looking for, potential solutions to problems. They probably already, by the time they come to your store, they probably already have a good sense of what they're looking for, and they've already have some information that maybe skews them away from your products or services. Uh, very few companies right now are utilizing content marketing, and even fewer or less are doing it well. So this gives you a really good reason to invest in content marketing, because it will give you a very big advantage over competitors. Content marketing can also be effective for branding. So people just knowing who you are, what you do, where you are. But it's also great for lead generation and sales, especially for e-commerce. If you have any sort of e-commerce functionality on your website, content marketing is crucial. For best results, you're going to want to produce what they call evergreen content, which is content that is going to be relevant for years. If it's something, if your industry is constantly changing, or some big update comes that renders a few of your old articles kind of irrelevant, just go back and rewrite them. You don't have to republish them. Just change what's changed in them, what's changed in your industry to make it relevant for today, and you won't lose anything. Content marketing also requires promotion to be effective. So you can't just write content, publish content without promoting it. You can, but your results will be a tenth of what they would be otherwise. And content marketing takes time. So be patient, results will come. A lot of people, and a reason why a lot of small businesses aren't doing this well, is they write a few articles, 4 or 5 articles, nothing happens, they lose interest or they get demoralized and they never write anything again. That's the worst thing you can do. You're going to want to give it at least 6 months producing content, get 20, 30 pieces of content out there, and you'll start to see the results come. So before we wrap up, just talk a little bit about the company. Again, I'm Zach from Lure Marketing. At Lure Marketing, we provide a wide range of digital marketing services, from digital ad campaigns, content marketing, SEO. We do website development. We back all of our efforts with analytics reports so you can see exactly how we're doing. And content marketing is no different. We're able to help small businesses set up a strategy, add a blog to their website, and even produce, publish, and promote their content. So anything you can think of, anything you need help with to get started, let us know. We're more than happy to help. So before we wrap up, then we'll just do a few Q&A here. So the first question that came in was, do you need to submit blog post articles to Google for indexing purposes? So when people search the keywords contained, they will find them. No, actually, Google and other search engines send out, they call them bots. It's small snippets of code that jump between different websites. So they'll actually go between links. So this is why promoting actually helps really get your content out there quicker. So if Google is crawling Facebook and they see a link to your article, they will then go follow that link to your new article and index it, meaning they go through and they basically take, copy and paste the code of the website and try to decipher what it is that article or that page is talking about, and then they index it in where they think it should go. So it's not something you have to manually do. It's automatically done by Google, and promoting your content will help that happen quicker. What software do you like for infographics? Canva is a great one. They have a lot of kind of pre-made templates for different things. If I do an infographic, I usually just use something like Photoshop, but you can also use a service like Fiverr, where you can get a graphic designer, for 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks to do an infographic for you. So if you don't have the skills yourself and you don't find any you like in Canva, there are some relatively inexpensive options where you're not having to hire a graphic designer, locally for 500 bucks or something to do an infographic. Would you recommend hiring someone to create a content strategy or just start and adjust as you go? That's up to you. Obviously, as someone that sells content marketing services, I would probably say you're going to do a lot better um, starting with some professional help, at least to get you started. So, things that we do in that vein would be doing the initial research with you to come up with good starting blog ideas or content ideas, and then organizing them in a way and giving you a strategy of which ones to publish in what order so that those initial pieces are as effective as they can be, while also coming up with a promotion strategy for you. So this gives you, something like that would cost a couple $100 one time sort of fee to get you set up. And those initial, let's say 20 articles are going to be a lot more effective than your trial and error necessarily would be. That being said, if you don't really have a budget right now, obviously, with COVID happening, there's budgets are tighter than they've ever been. So if it's something where, you got some ideas and you just want to get going, I won't hold you back from that. It's better to do that than to do nothing, for sure. Can you get the slides for today? Absolutely. You will be shared the slides in a PDF format as well as everything in a video. So you'll have both. You mentioned MailChimp. I need a provider that offers encrypted data in transit and REST to have Canadian data residency. Any suggestions? Are you talking about, I'm not 100% sure on the question there. Can you maybe rephrase? A provider that offers encrypted REST. Yeah, I'm not too sure of the question. MailChimp data is in US. Oh, that has a server that leaves it in Canada. That I'm not too sure of, to be honest. The only ones I've ever really used are MailChimp and ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, and they're all US-based servers that I know of. So yeah, sorry, I can't really help you there. So looks to be the end of the questions. So we'll wrap up now. Thanks very much for sticking around. And if you have any questions, feel free. There's a link to the website there in the last slide. You can also email me anytime, ZACK, so Zach at luremarketing.ca. Again, ZACK at LUREMARKETING.ca. Feel free, any questions you have that you think of, or if you want any more information on our services, shoot us an email, give me a call, anything, all of our information is on the website. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the future.